Now let's look into inspecting the images and containers. Although the Docker commands give you access to information about images and containers, sometimes you want to know more about the internal metadata of these Docker objects. So let's look into one use case of inspect. So the problem statement for us here is you can inspect. So we have to inspect images and containers by name or ID. You can do either image and container. Obviously, their metadata will differ. For example, a container will have runtime fields such as state, that the image will lack an image because an image has no state. We are going to do that. We are going to do inspection of image as well as inspection of container. So in this case, the next thing is, for us in this case, the problem statement is we want to find out a container's IP address on our host. Okay, to do this we need to do this we need to use the docker inspect command with the specific. Okay, so now let's jump into that and we'll see. But before we do the practical demonstration of inspection, a docker inspection, I will just see how does the output of this inspect command looks like. The docker inspect command gives you access to docker's internal metadata in JSON format. We have discussed what is JSON. If you have no clue about, if you have no clue about JSON format, you watch my previous videos. In that, I have explained Python dictionary, JSON format, and even YAML format practical demonstration. I urge you to go back and watch that. And now we are talking about raw inspect output of an image. So that we are going to do that now. So when you give an inspect command, it throws out an internal metadata in JSON format. So this produces a lot of output. So only a brief snippet of image that you can see here on screen. This is one just, it is a small part of that JSON format, that output of inspect command. Okay, so either you can inspect images and also containers. So if you give a container name, if you want to get an IP address of a container name, you can give even a container. Okay, so let's look into this one by one. First we will begin with okay, so let's do our first exercise here. So that's inspecting the images and containers. We'll begin with uh, Nginx or MySQL or whichever. Let me, so okay, it's gone out. Sudo I, let me clear the screen first, and let's do inspection. So before that, let me get into my Docker Hub. So repositories. So I have Cube, Nginx, MySQL, WordPress. We'll begin with the Nginx. Okay. So click on Nginx, click on see all, then copy the docker pull command. Okay, now I'm getting back, so I'll paste it, that command. So docker pull and name of the image with tag. So the image is being pulled at this moment. So the image has been pulled. So docker images, and you see that this is your image. So now I want to run this. The problem here is I want to run this, but I do not know I do not know the port where this application is running inside the container. How would I know that? because I have to map it now. I have to map the host port with the container port. How can I get to know? Because I do not have a Docker file. I have only Docker image. How can I get to know? That's my question. You answer me, guys. So the way is doing Docker inspect. So Docker inspect image name. That's it. Let me click on, and you're gonna exposed to the metadata of that image. So let's begin from the starting point of the output of Docker inspect, and we will scroll down slowly. Yeah, here it is. So ID of the image, then tag, it is this. Then repo digests, this from Cube Charan, this is from my GitHub. And parent date created and container if it is run. So then this is exposed to port 80 and with TCP. So this is what we want. So I'll just copy this and let me come to the, so example, uh, and this one is inspection. So what we want, port exposed application port where it is running. So that is this. Okay, the exposed port is this 80. So now we got our port. Let's take this port and now let's get back to our work. So we run before we run it, you can see that this is terminal TTY, it's false, and other things, path, you can find the path. Nginx version, you can see these are environment variable. When you call, okay, we'll do that. I'll show you this again when we do exec. So but these are environment variable. When you use this environment variable, we can get it respective value. And command, when you spin your container, this is going to be executed. You can see that cmd nginx and daemon off. So nginx will be started. Then volumes null, workdir null, entry point is docker entry point dot sh, and few more objects that we can find here is on build null, labels it's maintainer, yep, and stop signal sequit. So additional information, architecture is AMD 64, OS is Linux, virtual size, graph driver, more information, overlay, work there, and so all the layers are mentioned. 3 plus 3, 6 layers, and last time tag time is this one. So that's what the complete metadata of the image. So from here what we want is port, and port has been successfully copied here. You can see that this is what the port 80. So now we got the port 80. So now let's run or spin our container. So docker run, name of the container is load balancer, detached mode, and port mapping 8080 with 80. This is 8080 is the host port and 80 is the container port. Then let's copy the name of the container and we will, and it's v1 tag. Rest all done. So now let us spin a container. So unable to find this image locally. That's okay. So let me cross check. Yeah, Nginx V1. Fine. Docker run detached mode, Charon Nginx and V1 tag. Okay, this new. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I got it. I got the problem. This is small v. Yes, it's done. Clear the screen and let's do Docker ps. And here is your container, that is load balancer. So now let's access this application first, and we will do the remaining things. For that, let me get into, so yeah, instance, copy the IP, paste it here, and host port 8080, and this is your application up and running successfully. Okay, so now let us get back to the server and let's inspect the container. Docker inspect container name is load balancer. Oh, okay. Docker inspect load balancer. Yes, this is the data that you get when you inspect a container. This is completely different. This is all about what we have done with our container, how we have spun our container. Let's look into this metadata, objects of this JSON from the beginning. Yes, it's where it is the beginning. It's too much. There are a lot of data, lot of data. Yeah, here it is. So it begins with ID, then path. This is Docker entry point. Docker entry point is the beginning. Then auth. This is what it will execute when you spin a container. The most important thing, state. The state object will be there, whereas in image you won't get it. When you inspect an image, this state object won't be there, whereas inside a container you'll find the state object. So status, running, PID, that's a process ID, and started at and finished at. So image ID is clearly mentioned, and a path. So most important thing, port binding. Network mode is default, and the port binding is another one which is very important for us. So how this is 80 TCP, that belongs to container, whereas this is mapped with the host port of 8080. Got it? You see that? 80 and 80 of the host has been mapped with the 80 port of the container. So this kind of information we can cross check by mistake. After executing, after spinning the container, you forgot what port mapping you have done. You just come here and you can check. Of course, if you do docker paste still you'll get it, but if you want it clearly, you can come here and check. And then there is more information about a lot of parameters are mentioned here, so you can go through the each parameter in depth. It's mentioned a lot of things, and mask paths, proc, core keys, and here you'll have a work there with the overlay, and here you see config, the host name, this is name of the container, domain name we haven't attached, username no, and exposed port as usual we have discussed earlier, it is 80 TCP. Then here we have environment variable that we are going to see soon, and command cmd, this is what will be executed when you spin a container. And image name, you can see that kubechurn nginx small v1, volumes nothing, null, and here the network settings. Here you will find a clear cut network settings, complete the proper port bindings. If you bind this port with many host ports, all will be shown here. And finally here you will find that gateway. This is gateway, this is very important. A network, basically this is network bridge. This is a network object, network, yeah, see network settings, the bridge will be there, and the bridge, and then you'll have a gateway to this container, and the gateway will be connected through the gateway is 172.17. This is the network, and this is host name, host octets. These are network octets, these are host octets. So both 172.17 and 172.17 gateway and IP address of your container is in same network, and this is 01 is the host identification, 02 is the host identification of our container. So whatever that you connect from, let me show that. So we use 65 130 to 34. When you call this, so it will go to this 172.17.01 IP, and as a gateway it will be used, and then this will connect with 172.17.0.2, and finally we are able to access our application. That's how it works. And you can see the endpoint, network ID, gateway, and all. So now what will we do is we'll ping this. I'll ping we'll ping our container, and we'll see the data transfer. Nothing much. It's okay. Sudo I, and clear the screen. Ping. It is, yeah. You see that we have pinged this IP address, and this belongs to container. So 56 bytes of data, and this is the packets has been moving around ICMP sequence 1 TTL time milliseconds. So basically it is working properly, it is communicating well, it is continuously uh, transferring the data packets. So that's how we can use our inspect command of Docker with image as well as container. So this technique can be useful for automation, as the interface is likely to be more stable than other Docker commands. So we have used the ping. So the ping only accepts one IP address. We had to pass an additional argument if you want to uh, basically do more. So in that case, you have to attach an additional argument called xargs, telling it to run the command for an individual line. Okay, so let's so we have seen Docker inspect. So in Docker inspect, this is our Docker inspect command. We'll just go through the theory one more time. We have done the practical demonstration, but I would like to explain it one more time so that it would be damn clear for you. So then here you will find the ID of the Docker item you want to inspect, and here if you can use a format flag. The format flag, this uses Go templates to format the output. So here the IP address field is taken from the network settings field in the inspect output. Okay. And finally, to get IPs of running containers and ping each in turn, so we use docker ps-q, and then you pipe it with the xargs docker inspect, and then here you mm, bringing that IP address, and then we are pinging that IP address. You can see that. So the first line gets the container IDs of all running containers. Then it runs the inspect command against all container IDs to get their IP addresses. And the last one, xargs pipe, xargs L option 1, ping C1 option, takes the each IP address and runs ping against each in turn. Okay, I hope you got that. I just want, these are advanced commands that I have attached. If you want to explore more, you can use these commands directly from here as it is on your laptop and on your server, and you can explore more. But by the time, what will we do is I will get into my Docker server and we'll do few more demonstration. Okay, it's still up. Yeah, you see that? 220 packets transmitted, 220 received, 0 percentage packet loss, and time is this much of milliseconds, and RTT, minimum average median. Okay, so minimum is 0.47, average is 0.054, and maximum is 0.062. Fantastic. Whereas deviation is 0.02. Let's clear the screen, and let's bring up one more image. So Docker pull, let me get into my Docker hub for that. Where is that? Yeah, here, repositories, and scroll down a bit, get into MySQL. No, this time we're gonna do uh, one more thing. Yeah, resume. Hello. Yeah, multi-stage app image. So let me click on see all and copy this and pull the image with tag version 1. That's a v1. So it's pulling from kubectl. Multi-stage app image has been pulling, all the layers has been pulled. Now let's check Docker images. It's here it is. So but for me, again, the same issue. I do not know which port the application has been exposed inside the container. Then how would I know that? Answer me, guys. How would I know that? So we have to use inspect. Docker inspect image name. Yes, that's it. So directly we have gone through the each object of JSON file. So that's the reason. Let's simply get into the main part. It is again expose port is 8080 TCP. So now let's get into that, and meanwhile we can see one more. You can see a lot of environment variables. You see path, Java home, lang language, Java version, Catalina home, Tomcat native, GPG keys. Oh, you have GPG keys and then Tomcat and lot of environment variable. All we're gonna explore soon. Don't worry. So now let's. So we got that. It is a second container. This one is Nginx, and the third one is multi-stage. So let me copy this here. Yes. Okay. I copied the wrong one, but the port exposed port is 8080. Let me. Oh, there are a lot of variables. Environment variables. Yeah, here it is. Exposed port. Copy and put it here. So now let's run or clear the screen, docker run name option. This is Wipro app, and detached mode and port mapping I'm gonna do with I think, let me cross check Nginx in which port. This is 8080, so I'm gonna do 8090 with our container port is 8080, and name of the image okay. So let me copy this because I do not know. I know, but exactly I don't remember. So let me give name of the image. We'll just copy the name of the image directly from here itself. Okay. So let me paste it here, and now copy this name of the image and give a space. Yes. Okay. Got it. Version 1 done. Version 1, it is done. Version 1, it is done. So docker ps, you see that just up 8 seconds ago that the name is Wipro app, and here is that, and port is 8090 is mapped with 8080. Now let's get into that. Let's access that. Let me copy this. I'll keep that same because that's another container which is running. Now I will change it to 90 and see the magic, magic. That's it. You see that? So 8080, one container is spinning and the app is up and running. And 8090, another container is spinning, the app is up and running. So now what will we do is let's get into the container. Let's inspect the container. So docker inspect, the name of the container is Wipro app. You see that? You got it? Now you can see the MAC. This is the MAC address. That is a physical address of the device. Then you see that? You see that? Gateway remains same 172.17.0.1 because this is containers gateway, But at this moment, how many containers we have inside our Docker server? We have two containers. So one container took the IP address of 172.17.0.2. Another took 172.17.0.3. So with this, the networking concept should also be pretty clear for you. That's the reason I'm demonstrating this. Okay, so you have a gateway and these other containers will get connected through the gateway. So the gateway is common for both the containers. I'll show that also, don't worry. Okay, and this is our. Then now let's scroll up a bit and we'll see the bridge network we have seen, the gateway we have seen, and IP address we have seen. And here you could see that host port is 8090 and container port is 8080. The proper binding or mapping has been done. So rest all is as usual, image name and volumes is null working there. And here you can see the catalina.sh run. This is a command, like when you spin a container, this should be executed. And here you can see your environment variables. Rest all same. So let me scroll down completely. And this part, let's copy this three. This belongs to Wipro app. I'll paste it here. And now let's do the Docker inspect of another container, that is app. Okay. Docker ps. It is a load balancer. Sorry. Docker inspect load balancer. Let me copy this too so that I can prove it. So I copied this too and I'll paste it here too. Here too. Yep. You see that? Let me scroll up a bit. Yes. So this is Nginx container with gateway and IP. IP of the container is this 172.17.02 and gateway remains same. And this one is a Wipro app and gateway is 172.17.01, whereas IP address of container is 172.0.3. Two things I just want to prove here. The first point here is the first two credentials. So based on 16 IPRIX, basically this is called subnet masking. Subnet masking, what is that? Subnet masking. So here in subnet masking it is 16, that says 8 plus 8, the initial 16, and then 8 plus 8, the other 16. See here in this case the first 16 bits represent a network and remaining 16 or 2 octets represent host. So it's very clear 172.17 is the network address of all these three, container 1 and gateway and container 2, whereas the second, the last two octets are representing the host name. So if you remember that, we have discussed all these concepts. So now 172.17 is common for all, whereas 01 is gateway, 02 is container 1, and 03 is container 2, that is Wipro app. Now how do you route it to other two containers? Through the gateway, through the bridge. So the 172.17.01 is a gateway. So that receives a command from the public IP. You see, this is our public IP. Let me copy this. When you call that public IP with the port, let me put it here. Yeah, with the port ID. So that request will reach to gateway first, and then gateway will route it to public IP of the container. depends upon whether it is 03 or 02. So that's how it works. Now let's ping to contain that Wipro app container IP. Let me copy this and let's ping it. And let's see the packets of data. So it's going on 64 bytes. Good amount of packets has been transmitting. Let me close it and see the so total 12 packets. You see that 12, 4, 4 and 4. So 12 packets has been transmitted. So 12 received, 0% packet loss and time is this, and these are the statistics of our packet transmission. So with this we have clearly understood the purpose of Docker inspect command with nice examples.